We'll get started in just a minute, give people a chance to join the room here. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So here we go. All right, well, welcome everyone to our next session, which is entitled How the Pandemic Changed Food Service. And I am delighted to introduce you to Alejandra Espinoza, who is the chef owner of Somos Restaurant in Quito, Ecuador. And I don't know how much of this we shared beforehand, Alejandra, but I have a very special place in my heart for Ecuador. I was there a few years ago, and it's just, you have so much as a country, so much food and just so many wonderful things about your culinary culture. And when your name and also Rodrigo, our next speaker's names, came across my inbox as potential speakers, I thought, wow, we have to get you, because I think in Latin America, Peru gets a lot of the spotlight, and they're doing some interesting things, but man, what you're doing in Ecuador is just, it's like the underdog, right? You're doing all these fantastic things, and a lot of the world doesn't know about what you're doing. So I really wanted to give you and Rodrigo both the stage and to talk about what you're doing, and what the work you're doing at Somos Restaurant is so interesting. So the theme of the conference is how culinary travel is changing because of COVID, the pandemic, and the lessons that you've learned trying to run a business in the middle of a pandemic, and the changes that you've needed to make. Very much looking forward to what you have to say. So I will go ahead and mute myself and turn it over to you.
Great, thank you, Eric. I'm really excited to be here today and to be able to share with all of you my project and to talk to you about not only Somos, but a little bit of Ecuador. And I'm going to start giving you a little bit of perspective of what was Somos before, how did it started, and then what happened, and then all of the changes that we made in order to adapt after all of the COVID situation hit us in Ecuador. So this is the restaurant. This is the outside of the restaurant. I wanted you to get a sense. That's me. I wanted to explain you a little bit of my story, because I think it's very important for you to connect to what I did and how I arrived back to Ecuador. So I was born and raised in Quito, and when I was 18, I moved to France. I had the opportunity to go to study in Paul Bocuse, which is one of the great culinary school in France. And after that, many doors opened. I was able to work at Alain Ducasse and Guy Savoy in Paris and get a lot of experience. But if anyone here has worked in France, after 10 years of being there, I got really tired, and I wanted a change. So I moved to the States. I moved to San Francisco. And I arrived at a time where a lot of technology platforms were connecting to chefs. So platforms like Cozy Meal, Eat With, Feastly, Dinner Lab were platforms that were making a business out of chefs that were doing private events with other businesses or with the public. So for me, this was a great experience, because in 4 years, I was able to get out of only being in the kitchen and actually use technology and other tools to promote a business. So that helped me a lot before actually going back to Ecuador and opening Somos. In 2008, I decided with my husband to move back to Ecuador. But before that, we had the opportunity to travel for a year around the world, getting ideas and experiences. Before coming to the restaurant, so we have a clear goal and idea of how we wanted to do it. My goal has always been to go back to Ecuador and to give back a little bit of everything that I learned abroad, so I can elevate our food, because we have amazing products already in Ecuador. So there's a video that I wanted to show you, but unfortunately I can't. But the video will be available on the library for you after. So I really recommend you seeing the video, because it really shows how we work at the restaurant, what we do, and the experience of being there. These are some pictures from the restaurant, from the ingredients. So we're mainly focused on local products and endemic products. And for me, it was a great learning experience going back, because since I was away for almost 15 years, I had to reconnect to Ecuador, to our products, to purveyors. And it was quite difficult at the beginning, but with time, I was able to get really good allies by my side. So these are some of the dishes we do. We use a lot of products from Ecuador and different regions from Ecuador. So we try to highlight dishes from our region, and we use products only from that region. And then I combine a lot of flavors and techniques from around the world, because our theme is Ecuadorian born, globally inspired. I couldn't say we do traditional Ecuadorian food, because there's a lot of people that already do it for many, many years, and I don't want to compete with that. So we have our own style of food that we do. So it's globally inspired. This is a little bit of my team, the space. One thing that I wanted to put in the spot is that very, very fast, in 1 year, we got a lot of success with the restaurant. We were written by the National Geographic. We had articles in several airlines, and for us, it was great. So in 1 year, we were like very comfortable, like, okay, this is what we do. Things are working. So we never had to like think about something else, or like, oh, do we need to diversify the business or anything? We were just like, we are providing a great experience. It's working. So we should keep doing this for many, many years. So that's how we were that first year. And this was in 2019 when we opened. And then, as everybody knows, in March 2020, COVID hit. And as in many countries around the world, Ecuador was hit really hard and really fast. We had to close the restaurant on March 14. And it was the middle of the month. And from like one day to another, there was a curfew in Quito. So we had to close the restaurant. Like you can only open from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. But you were not able to move around the city or anything. And we had 32 people on staff at the time. And from having a lot of people in success to not having anybody and having full-time staff, we were like really in a dilemma of what are we gonna do, especially not knowing how long this was gonna last, because I think everybody was kind of waiting for be like 1 month, maybe 2. But then when we saw that it was gonna be really bad, we really were desperate about what we were gonna do. And I don't know if you've seen, but it was really bad, especially in a city called Guayaquil, which is in the coast. So can you imagine, like, nobody was traveling, but even after like the borders were open, like people didn't want to come to Ecuador because it seemed like it was hell almost. And it was in many places. So we weren't able to open at all. And we tried very quickly to move into delivery. But what we were doing at the time was not a good delivery business, because everything was plated, everything was put at the last minute. So when we did the same to delivery, the offer that we were giving to our clients was completely a disaster. So as we tried to do delivery the first month, so April, instead of making money and gaining clients or maintaining our current clients, we were losing the clients that we had before. So for us, it was like, okay, what we're gonna do? And unfortunately, also in Ecuador, just to give you a perspective, we had zero help from the government. We were alone as a private company. So we had to fire our 32 people on staff because we weren't able to maintain them, especially since I think nobody was ready for this. And also, since it hit in the middle of the month, we have bought everything for the month. We were just not ready for it. And when you fire somebody in Ecuador, you have to give them the money when they leave, and this was really high for us, and it took all of our cash flow. So it was really hard for us and many other businesses, many other friends that I know, that we had to close because we weren't able to maintain ourselves. So the restaurant closed literally from March to August because it was just nothing was happening in Ecuador, and it was really hard to do whatsoever. I never lost hope to be able to reopen, but we were clear that we cannot reopen doing the same thing, especially at that time. So we had an offer at the restaurant it's called Wawasas, which is a pizza of Ecuador made with cassava, which is a yuca. So the dough is made with sourdough and cassava. So it's a very delicious glutinous dough. And we were serving that at Somos before, like a something to share. And people really love it. So we were like, we should do a concept that it's easier to start because we cannot hire all of our staff from before. So let's do something that we can have little staff that we can produce easily, and that it's really low in cost to reopen. So that's how Wawaseria, which is our second concept, came alive. And it worked super well. We started with nothing. We literally had little savings from ourselves. We had some friends helping us. And with that, we opened, we were 8 people on staff from 32 that we were before. Everybody had to do everything. And it was really good because it helped me understand that I actually didn't need 32 people for a lot of things. So that's one lesson that I've learned from this, from the pandemic, that everybody can be polyfunctional, and it's not a bad thing to do or to be. It's actually a great skill set that I can give to my team if they're able to not only do their drinks, but they can do their drinks, they can serve, they can cook. So it was great. So Wawaseria was open from September to December in the same space where Somos was. And during those 5 months, we were able to save some money so we can reopen Somos in January 2021. So in January 2021, we reopened Somos, but we were clear that we cannot just depend on one restaurant. And that's another thing that we learned pretty on the bad side, because before, as I mentioned, we were like very comfortable with the restaurant, things were going great. So we didn't have to think about other things. But since COVID hit, we were like, we cannot rely on one concept, on one restaurant just to live on it. So we've started thinking about what we're gonna do. So Wawaseria, which is the concept in the middle, it's still open and running, but not in the same level. So we redid. The restaurant has 3 floors, and on the bottom floor is Wawaseria. On the main floor is Somos, and then we have also a speakeasy that's called Set, that focuses on high-end cocktails made with only local alcohols from Ecuador. So we star all of the local purveyors and their liquors. And also we are preparing a line of cocktails to go. So all of this is like different brands that will help us, if anything happens in the future, to have something that we can survive on. These are the 3 different Instagram pages of the 3 concepts, and each one is very distinctive, but they're all under the same brand of Somos. Another thing that we had to adapt during the pandemic was how our offer, because before we were just like, okay, we're gonna do things this way and that's the way it is. But then we realized that we can think differently, we can do things differently. So now we're offering a la carte menu for locals. So if you want to come to the restaurant and just have like a main or a starter, you can. And then we also have a set menu for foreigners and for locals, where they can have a 4-course tasting menu or an 8-course tasting menu, and they can taste a little bit of Ecuador in those menus. So our offers are multiple within the same menu. Like we built the offers based on ingredients and already things that we have on the menu, which we didn't did before, and I don't know why, but now we're really like trying to optimize and try to reach other kind of clients. Also, as many restaurants around the world, we use our QRs for menus, and this has saved us a lot of money because we were printing menus every single day. And with the QR codes, we just change the menu online, and we don't have to actually be printing every time, even though we do have some clients that want to have a physical menu, and we do have that option, but it's not as it was before. Then other sources of revenue that we've thought about and are moving forward with is our book. We worked on our book on our first year, and it's available to be sold on Amazon. And this is another source of revenue for the restaurant. We're currently working on our second book. Because also Somos, what we do is we give all of the information. Like if anybody comes and asks me for a recipe of any of our dishes, I'm so happy to give them, because we're always creating. And in the Ecuadorian born of the first year, you can find everything from what we started until we closed for COVID. Then we also have the tienda. The tienda has a lot of local products. We try to work with the small entrepreneurs that are trying to have a space and a voice to be able to sell their products. So we have the tienda that is actually a really great source of revenue. So we have the book, we have the tienda, and then we are in 2 delivery platforms, which are Rappi and Uber Eats. And these we were working while the pandemic was going, and now it's still working. So we have these 3 other sources of revenue. And then a big thing that changed after everything, and it's how we take care of our staff. I wouldn't say that before we didn't care about them or we didn't take care of them, but I think we weren't as conscious as we are now of how much we depend on them, and how hard it is now to find good people to work with you. So we've implemented a lot of things that help us keep our team and keep them happy. Also in Ecuador, working in a restaurant is not like, oh, something great or something you're looking for or something that your parents will be proud of. And it's very unfortunate because you can actually build a career in a restaurant. It could be something great, but that's our culture. But it's always an opportunity to change this mindset. So 50% of the staff that I have currently have been with me since the day I opened, and I'm really, really happy about that. And what we've done with them is we've started a program that's called Career at Somos, and it's focused on taking care of each one of them. We provide a mental health support to all of our managers and any staff that needs it. We're working with a company that helps us have this service available whenever they need it. So that's the first thing. Then the second is we've teach them a lot of technology. So that's something that before we didn't even think about, like why do they need to be learning more about new technology? Because I mean, we weren't using it that much before. We were using it, but not as much. So now most of my team is trained to use any technology that you might need, including Zoom, including Asana, Talk, and not all of the other apps that we use at the restaurant, and able to connect between each other and also with our clients. And then I've also focused very much on like their health. We provide dental service for them, and we've hired a person that actually cooks highly nutritional meals for them. So they have energy. Before we used to do like a staff meal on the restaurant, but it was never to the level that I wish one day in France they would have given it to me. It was good, but now I can say it's great. And they actually, everybody's looking forward to having that meal. So we have that. And the last thing is that we make a very close follow-up on each one of them, so we can actually understand how they started and how they are evolving every month and what do they want. So we put like a 1-year goal, 2-year goal, 3-year goal, so they can actually envision themselves working with us for many years, because that's the goal. We invest so much in our team that it's really hard for us to lose someone. But it's a risk, as we all have in this industry. So that's been our journey. I think our main lessons on how our food industry has changed after COVID is that we cannot do things the same way we were doing before. We need to think broader, and restaurants cannot just cook great food. Yeah, it's delicious, but we also need to think further into like what other sources of revenue can we have every day, even when we're sleeping, or if we have to close in the future, what it's going to help us survive, not only for me, but also for my team, because I don't want to do what I had to do in March on 2020, that I had to fire them. So it's like thinking forward on like, how can I prepare myself for anything that can happen, even though we can never be that prepared, but at least take some initiatives to have other sources of revenue in the future. So that's a little bit of a story. That's a little bit of Somos. And if anybody has any questions, I'll be really happy to respond. And please follow us on Somos.rests. And that's it.
Thank you, Alejandra. Well, I certainly want to visit your restaurant now. It looks like a place of love, love with great food, really.
Yes.
Let me ask you something. So if you were working with the Ecuadorian Ministry of Tourism, what would be the top 3 things that you advise them in terms of helping Ecuador to get back on track with promoting its gastronomy?
I've been working with the ministry, and I'm actually doing a dinner with them next week in Oregon. And I think the main thing that what we're trying to change is change this perspective of like, it has to be traditional, it has to be this way, because that doesn't represent what Ecuador is offering to the world right now, which I'm not saying that it's not good, like the traditional things that you find in the market. But there's a lot of new things, that a lot of new chefs, a new wave of people that were trying to elevate Ecuadorian food, because also food needs to adapt to what is eaten currently. Most of our dishes in Ecuador are very heavy. Like you will have a soup that has cheese, cream, and many other ingredients that when you eat it, if you're not local, it will be heavy and you cannot have it twice, or your idea of that food will not be great. So for me and for many other chefs, we're trying to make it more accessible for the world. So in this event that I'm doing next week, I'm doing a ceviche, which is a shrimp ceviche. It's not the way we eat it normally, because normally we eat it with like Fanta. That's like the soda. They put it on the ceviche. So I'm doing a twist on that, and I think that's one of the main things, that we do not have to do the things that we've done before in order to be known. So we're switching that. Then the second one that I've really advised on is give proper trainings to the people that offer food in markets and others, because I think markets are a great representation of what a country is. And I love to go to the markets wherever I go, but how can you go and not know you're going to get sick? So if we can give tools to the people that are working there to keep a more safe space, it will be great, not only for them, but for everybody, for the country. And then the third is to promote every region for its products, because I think Ecuador has the jungle, has the highlands, has the coast. So we can do like a map saying like, okay, here you can have banana and these are the dishes that represent this, or here's cacao. So like trying to promote each food for its regions, which has a lot of potential because every single region has something different. So that will be my recommendations, and some of them are being heard already.
That's great to hear. I think that Ecuador, when people think about Ecuador, they maybe have seen the stickers on the bananas, you know, and that's what they think. And I don't think they know that Ecuador does coffee and does chocolate and even has wine, right? And like quinoa, you know, I think they might perhaps link quinoa with Ecuador or Peru, one of those countries over there somewhere in South America, right? You know, I don't think people really know what Ecuador is known for. So if we were to look at stereotypical national dishes that help to brand countries like tacos from Mexico or pizza and pasta from Italy, what would you say that would be for Ecuador? Would it be the Fanesca Easter soup or something else?
I don't think the fanesca could work abroad. It's too heavy. But like our locro de papas, I think that could be a staple for anywhere because, of course, adapted. Because the locro, it's a potato soup that has on top like avocado and cheese. And then you can adapt it to make it more like less dairy, but it's still so delicious. That's one. I think another one could be our ceviches, because we have ceviches from Manaví that it's made with peanuts, that it's so delicious. Or we have the ceviche that it's with tomato and orange juice from the highlands, that is also extremely delicious. And then all of the culture of snack food, like our empanadas, our corviches. Corviche is like a little, I don't know, like a fried dough that has fish stew in the middle, and it's so good. So there's a lot of like snack foods that you can relate. And like when I've had the opportunity to travel around the world, and when you see like in Africa, you're like, oh my God, we have almost the same, you know, but we call it different and we put another sauce. So I think that could be really a representation of what Ecuador is, and our ajís. So we put ají on everything. So we have always an ají, which is a sauce made of red hot peppers, on top of all of the food that we eat. And I think we have a variety that is so broad that we can be forecasting that as like, okay, this is Ecuador and this is how we eat.
Those all sound delicious, and I wasn't really familiar with most of them. I know that, well, you mentioned Oregon. I used to live in Portland, and there was a Brazilian girl there who is now known for her pão de queijo. And have you heard of Brazi Bites by any chance?
Oh.
Okay, so she started this company called Brazi Bites, and she's gotten all kinds of awards for it and everything. She's in grocery stores now in the frozen section. And for those of you who don't know, it's just Brazilian cheese bread. They're like little balls, and they put cheese in them, and they're they're dangerous. They're very good.
There's some sort of that it's called pan de yuca, which is very similar. It has just less, but it's very similar, and we eat it. I love it, and we eat it with yogurt. That's how we eat, you know. So yeah.
You know, I think when I was in Ecuador, we did a road trip slightly north, and then we took the train slightly south to Cotopaxi down there. And then when we went north, we went up to a rose farm. And I think that there's a couple things I noticed. First of all, the geography is surprising. I don't think people realize that there are all these mountains in the way, right? Oh, well, we'll just fly into Quito and we'll just, you know, do the whole country in a day. No, there's mountains and volcanoes, and it's hard. But I think that, what's that?
Like we don't have just mountains, we have big mountains, and I love climbing mountains. So it's like for mountaineering and all that, it's just amazing.
Yeah, huge, massive, like 14,000 feet mountains, or what is that, 4,000, 5,000 meters, something like that. Really big mountains, volcanoes. And also I think that people don't really, when you think about Ecuador, at least as maybe as an American or as a European, we know Quito, we've heard of Quito, we've heard of Cuenca, where some people go to retire, but people don't really know much about Manabí, you mentioned, Guayaquil, in the where some of the Pacari chocolate is where the cacao beans come from. The Amazon forest, there's so many different places in Ecuador. And when I was there, they organized a tasting of foods from different parts of the country, and I was blown away. You had Amazonian products here, products from the coast here, products from the mountains, and it was just the diversity. It's a small country, but so many varieties of foods, and the flavors were really intense, I remember as well.
And you go like 30 minutes in your car from one place to another, and you have a completely different ecosystem and food. And you're like,
Yeah.
what is this? And also there's very interesting endemic products that I've been like working with, and you're like, I've never seen anywhere in the world this. And it's so unique. And I mean, every country has that, but we've been losing that more and more because of a lack of information, and like nobody's interested in those products. But we use a lot of them in the restaurant, and we're trying to even educate ourselves and our clients so those products can become common and they don't disappear. Because that's another big problem. Like everybody's just having tomatoes, cucumber, or whatever they can find in the grocery store. But those were not the things that we used to eat in Ecuador before. And I think that's our mission also as chefs, and many of my colleagues in Ecuador are doing the same thing. Like, we cannot lose these products. This is our history. This is Ecuador. And I think that's also something that is very unique, that you will come and you'll be like, oh my gosh, what is this thing I've never tried in my life? And you will only find it in Ecuador.
You're absolutely right. There's that danger of standardizing the food or giving people what they think the visitors want.
Yes.
And no, we don't want you to standardize the food for us. We want you to cook like your grandparents did. We want you to cook like you were growing up, that kind of food. And I'm curious because I was mentioning our practice areas in the previous session, and we have a wellness and health practice area. And we have someone, the chair of our wellness and health practice areas, attending your session right now. And I am sure she would also like to know, what are some of those products that have maybe been used in health and wellness in the past that are also culinary products? And is there any kind of wellness industry that's developing in Ecuador right now?
Like 1 hour away from Quito, there's a place called Papayacta, which is hot springs that are incredible because they are natural hot springs, and it's so close to Quito, so you don't have to travel like 4 hours. You just go there. It's called Termas de Papayacta. It's like a hidden gem in Ecuador where you not only find, you can relax, and they have a whole program of spa and treatments, all with natural herbs. But also when you are there, the environment is so pure. You can see all of the mountains, and it's just a paradise. So for wellness, I will say we are not as, we don't have a lot of a structure, but we do have certain places and things that are very unique and all natural. And in terms of like natural medicines, or there's a culture in Ecuador, and you will see it. There's like a lot of carts, like walking in the street, where you have like, there's these women that are, or men that are very knowledgeable about herbs and fruits and stuff. So for example, your head hurts and you go and you tell him, oh, I have this, and they will prepare a special drink in the moment with natural herbs from past knowledge that will help you with your headache or with your stomachache, but it's all 100% natural. And I think that's something also very unique that we're losing, because our generation doesn't have a clue of how many of what this herb will do and what the other thing will do. But these people have so much knowledge. It's like doctors of natural medicine, and they are in a lot of places in Quito. And I really love that. And I think that is something, an added value for a lot of people that can go and try this.
That's interesting. I mean, I think that a lot of destinations have these wellness and health assets, but they don't necessarily promote them. I mean, I wouldn't think of Ecuador as a wellness destination right now.
Yeah, no, but there is so many places. I mean, the fact of having your own private beach somewhere in the coast of Ecuador, and then just being able to be there, to think, to breathe clear air is already like a treatment. And from there, you can have many places that offer like food that is adapted for different kind of diets or other. But I think to like have a break and like to think, to not, there's massive tourism. There's also like little like focus, little towns where you go and you have like little experiences. I think Ecuador is more focused on that. We don't have like huge resorts or stuff that where you go and have like everything included, which I'm saying is not bad, because of when you have kids is great. But for us, it's more like little towns adventure where you actually explore and spend time with locals and find things that are very unique to every single region.
I think one of your assets too is that you don't really suffer from over tourism the way some other countries do. I mean, you do have traffic in Quito, but the traffic in Lima was epic. That was just unbelievable. Yes. But like you said, you can go to the coast and have your own private beach, and maybe you can have your own chef for a week, right? Who's actually cooking healthy things with the old ways of cooking, or some healthy ingredients that perhaps have curative properties. That I think is something that really holds potential for Ecuador. I'd like to see that product developed more there.
It's a good, now that you're saying, it's a really good line of business that could work. And because the ingredients we have, the space we have, and like, it's just being able to promote it the right way.
That's what we do. We think of the opportunities where there are none, where there's nothing happening.
Yes.
Okay, so we have a question here. Do you see other restaurants following your example of diversifying your concept with stores and other services?
Definitely, yes. I wouldn't say like everybody has done it, but there's definitely a lot of colleagues that have gone into selling merchandising mainly. Like, for example, coffee shops are not only doing like coffee, they're doing cocktails too, and they're doing cocktails to go. They need to be able to make other sources of revenue, because Ecuador is still small and we don't have that much amount of tourism. Like we have tourists, but most of them, and this is the reality, they go to Galapagos. They will come to Quito one night, go to Galapagos, come back to Quito one night, and then they're gone. And what we're trying to do is like stay at least 2 days in Quito, 2 days in Cuenca, because Galapagos is amazing, but also it's only one region, so come and try to stay with us at least a little bit longer. And we're very lucky at the restaurant. Most of the people that go to Galapagos, they stay at least one night in Quito and they come to Somos. So we are very
it's one country and 5 worlds, really, 5 different experiences.
Yes, and it's very small, but you can do it all. I wouldn't say like in a week, because you wouldn't enjoy, but in a month, you can really do all of our regions and have a full sense of what Ecuador has to offer.
Yeah. There's another question here about networking with other Ecuadorian chefs. Are there any other chefs that share your mindset that you maybe collaborate with?
Yes. There's a lot of so I arrived to Ecuador at a moment where a lot of chefs were already in place. They were already doing their thing. They were friends, and I arrived from nowhere, like, and not knowing anything, not knowing the situation. So I was like neutral completely. So for me, I was just like talking with everybody with not knowing anything about the situation, because there's always things in every country with chefs and things and that. But I was just like in neutral world. So for me, it helped me a lot to be able to connect with them. And I do have really good connections in Guayaquil, in Cuenca, in Manabí with Rodrigo. I also know him. He went to the same school as I did. Okay. Yeah. So I've learned a lot from what he's doing, and from many others. There's a chef in the jungle called Juan Juaniceto. He's studying, and he bring a book out of all of the ingredients from the jungle. So there's knowledge that is shared and like collab dinners that we do. I wish we could do more, but I think there's a good environment if you promote that environment. I think that's the main thing that you have to be forward.
Agreed. We have another question here from Monique in the Netherlands. She'd like to know,
sorry about that, Alejandra, but following the question about Monique, you invest a lot in training and motivating and caring for your staff. How do you train, motivate and care for yourself as an entrepreneur?
That's a really good one because I'm always thinking about my team and like they're all my babies and I need to take care of them. But how do I take care of myself? I run a lot. I think that's one of my main things. Like in the mornings, I do take the time to go running and take the time for myself. And Sundays for me is like a day that I just really turn off my phone. Like the restaurant can be falling and I really just disconnect. So I do that, and I also started talking more about how I feel. I used to always keep it to myself because I will be like I can do it all, but I've asked for help in that way, and I think it helps a lot to be able to talk about your fears because, of course, you have a big team, but at the end of the day, you're also human. So I do that. I think I should be more attentive to myself in terms of the food and all of the things that I do for my team because there's days where I forget to eat like all day. But I'm working on that. I think that's a daily work and I'm aware that I need to be more careful, but it's good that I am aware of it because before, like in France, I will work like 24 hours and I'll be like, destroy it. And I wouldn't be aware. I would be just, this is the way it is and you have to do it that way.
Yeah, well, it has been lovely to have heard you talk. And we are really looking forward to see what's coming in your project. So for our delegates, we are going to wrap up this session and we will see you like in 20 minutes in the next one. Hopefully we will see Eric again. Otherwise we can continue. Thank you so much, Alejandra, and hopefully we will see you in Ecuador.
I hope so. So I hope to see you all. Take care. Have a great day.
Thank you to everyone.